Redskins were thankful for the return of Mark Rippon from injury. The Vikings were thankful for Herschel Walker's comeback from oblivion. Inside the NFL.
I'm Brian Burwell. In this week's cover story, we'll take a look at Houston Oilers quarterback Warren Moon, whose sense of giving shines well beyond the football field.
My football days are long behind me, but not the great memories. Stay tuned later in the show to find out where I am now.
Like his Bengals, southpaw Boomer Esiason has had a roller coaster season. The first-place quarterback joins us on NFL Crosstalk. This is Inside the NFL, professional football's most informative hour, with Len Dawson, Nick Bonacani, and Chris Collinsworth.
Hello, everyone. We certainly hope you're having a very pleasant Thanksgiving week. I know lots of turkey, lots of football to digest in the next few days. Gentlemen, we're 10 games into the season. I think there's enough information to give us trends in the NFL and how some teams have become successful. For example, the trend, the run-and-shoot offense, you mentioned at the beginning of the season it wasn't going to make it. Now, after 10 games, how do you read the trends in the NFL?
Well, what we're seeing is a new low-risk style of football emerging. Teams simply are not taking chances anymore. They're relying on their running game and their defense and not turning the football over to win games. And it's working out great for teams like the Bears and the Giants and the Raiders, who are all in first place.
How can you call this a new style of football? We did it in the 70s. The Steelers won 4 Super Bowls, and even Lenny's old Chiefs played this way.
We're not talking about the Stone Age here. We're talking about football since they've changed the rules to favor the offenses.
Stone Age? Can you believe this guy? He really has a way with words, right? He also has a way of alienating the feelings of people. He started with the Raiders, trashing them at the beginning of the season. Now, anybody, I guess, that played before 1980 is from the Stone Age. Is there anyone else you want to talk about?
Well, what about Paul Tagliabue and what's going on down in Arizona? How many black owners are in the league?
Wait,
you guys tell me that.
Save that for your trashy talk show in Cincinnati.
Oh,
I want to
talk,
talk about offenses in the NFL, the old and new offenses. There's one exception, that is the San Francisco 49ers. They can put points on the board.
You know, Lenny, these so-called ball control offenses still have to show that they can contend with the 49er team. Even the great Giant defense that really has stopped almost everybody this year. I think school is still out on them as to whether or not they can slow down this 49er scoring machine.
You know, I don't know if anybody can stop the 49ers and Joe Montana with his own defense, and that's exactly what the Giants are playing out there. And another thing, I know the Giants are undefeated, but I really believe people have prematurely put them in a class with the San Francisco 49ers. I'll believe it when I see it.
Oh, we're going to get an opportunity to see that next week. I can hardly wait. America is awaiting this game. And here on Inside the NFL, we're going to have a special program highlighting these two teams. We'll tell you more about that later in the program. Thanksgiving started in New England, but even the Pilgrims would have trouble being thankful for the Patriots. But there are other NFL teams who have a lot to be thankful for, as we'll see in the following highlights.
Both Dan Reeves and Mike Ditka have much to be thankful for. They've got their health and the game that remains their lifeblood. Unfortunately, it's not exactly a stress-free environment. On Sunday, neither the Bears nor the Broncos reached the end zone until the second half, when Chicago head guard Tom Thayer, number 57, to thank for providing escort service for fullback Brad Mustard.
Gives to Mustard, off the left side, cuts it back to the ball. And he left 2.
The Bears' 13-6 lead held up well into the final period before Broncos quarterback John Elway took matters and the football into his own hands.
The 5-yard line, he goes for a touchdown. John Elway was hit at the 2-yard line by Tate.
With less than a minute to play in regulation, the Bears made their move toward the go-ahead score. Neil Anderson's key catch and run moved the ball into position for the winning field goal off the foot of kicker Kevin Butler.
41-yard field goal attempt. Slight angle to the left side. Check by Butler, rises to the uprights, and it is hit the left upright and bounded away. No good. We will go to overtime.
Oh, wow. Hit the upright and came back the other way, folks. Wow.
The Broncos had every opportunity to score in overtime. 3 times they had possession, but never got beyond their own 35. For this, the most thankful man in Denver was Kevin Butler, who was granted a second chance to provide the game-winning point.
To the uprights, and it is Kevin Butler with a line drive.
It wasn't pretty, was it?
The Bears' win drove the Broncos deeper into the cellar and solidified Chicago's position at the top of the NFC Central. If only the Washington Redskins could perform with the consistency and precision of the first-place Bears, or of the Redskins band, for that matter. Well, with the return of quarterback Mark Rippon, the Skins got back in step.
Is rolling, throws it the end zone. Monk, touchdown.
It was another milestone for Art Monk. In NFL history, only Steve Largent and Charlie Joyner have caught more passes. The Redskins celebrated Rippon's return from knee surgery by giving him flawless protection. And Rippon thanked them with 4 touchdown passes.
Open, touchdown, Washington Redskins. Rippon is back, lobs it up high in the end zone. Kelvin Bryant's there, touchdown.
The win left Washington at 6-4 and one of only 5 NFC teams with a winning record. Somehow, the Kansas City Chiefs have stayed in a festive mood and over the 500 mark, despite having not scored an offensive touchdown in 10 quarters. It was a streak that Chargers head coach Dan Henning would like to have extended. San Diego sacked Chiefs quarterback Steve DeBerg just once, and not before he ended the Kansas City scoring drought.
Drive pass down the middle, caught over the shoulder, the 50, the 40, the 30, he's gone, look at him fly! J.J. Burden with the 90-yard touchdown reception.
Now that the Chiefs had finally broken their scoreless spell, their fans appeared to use a little sorcery on Chargers receivers that rendered their hands useless. Kansas City had more success holding on to the ball and scored twice more through the air, courtesy of a virtually unknown running back, Bill Jones, number 43.
Touchdown, Kansas City. Page in motion, fake handoff, back to pass to Bird, dumps a pass near side, caught by Jones, spins to the 5, he rambles it, touchdown, Kansas City.
Thanks to 2 free agents, Bill Jones and J.J. Burden, and a 36-year-old journeyman quarterback, the Chiefs made a little magic, with hopes that it will carry over to next week's showdown with the division-leading Raiders. Coming off 2 consecutive losses, L.A. seems stretched to the limit, and the Dolphins did their best to break the Raiders' back. But Miami was never able to take control of the game, thanks to the Raider running attack. Behind Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen, number 32, L.A. ripped apart the Dolphin defense, and most importantly, kept Dan Marino on the sideline. Miami lost for only the 2nd time this season, and the Raiders were most thankful they faced the Dolphins on Monday night, where they have lost only 6 times in 21 years.
A lot of people think that of all the teams in the AFC, the Raiders would be the best chance to beat the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. But first things first, the Raiders have not made the playoffs since 1985. But, Nick, I think they took a giant step Monday night when they beat the Dolphins and they controlled their own destiny. You were there. How did you see that game?
Well, you talk about going back to old Raider football. That's complete domination of the line of scrimmage. But if you think the Raiders are the best team in the AFC, I've got news for you. Any team in the AFC that goes to the Super Bowl is going to have to do it through Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree with you. The road to the Super Bowl probably will be through Buffalo, but the road to Buffalo will probably be through Los Angeles. The Kansas City Chiefs take on the Raiders out there this weekend, and I guarantee you that the Raiders will not run through the Kansas City Chiefs defense like they did the Miami Dolphins defense last week.
Well, now the big question is, can Kansas City score any touchdowns? Well, they didn't the last time these two teams met, but they did win the football game. You know, these two teams are the type of teams we were talking about earlier. They have a limited offense, control the game, and a dominating defense. They do not ask the quarterback to win the game for them. They just ask the quarterback, please don't lose it.
Hey, with those 4 running backs in the game on Sunday, you've got Allen and Jackson for the Raiders and Okoye and Word for Kansas City. This could be the shortest game in NFL history. These teams could run the football 80 times.
Well, maybe NBC should bring out that Heidi movie to show after the game. Of course, Chris hasn't seen it because that was in the Stone Age, you know, before 1980.
You know what these two teams need to do, though? They need to work a little trade. The Kansas City Chiefs, they have 2 fullbacks. The Raiders, they have 2 tailbacks. What do you think about Marcus Allen and Barry Word out in Los Angeles and Christian Okoye and Bo Jackson back in Kansas City? What do you think?
Not a bad deal. Of course, it would save on travel expenses for Bo Jackson. He could just walk across the parking lot from Royal Stadium, put on his football uniform, and play in Arrowhead. You know, it's obviously a bad week to be a turkey. And last week, there were teams in the NFL were also gobbled up, you know, stuffed by opposing defenses.
Last week, the New York Giants celebrated Thanksgiving by feasting on the Lions' erratic run-and-shoot offense. Lawrence Taylor, recording his first sack since Week 3, led a defense that gobbled up and shut out Detroit. Meanwhile, the Giants' often conservative offense proved that when necessary, it can dish out a variety of ways to score.
3rd down, about 8.5. Lions showing blitz. Sims sets the throw, gets the pass away. Open man Baker at the 20, gets away to the 10, to the 5, and he'll score. He just turned on Chris Oldham and left him standing.
Bill Sims, the NFL's highest-rated quarterback, hit on touchdown passes to Stephen Baker and number 82 Mark Ingram as New York rolled up 20 first-half points en route to a ridiculously easy victory. With a record of 10-0, the Giants are living proof that winning often fosters happiness and team unity. Something the once dissension-riddled Buffalo Bills and their league-leading rusher Thurman Thomas have come to discover.
Here is Thurman Thomas. He breaks through at the 30, at the 35, 40, 45, midfield, one man to beat. He's at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, at the 5, touchdown, Thurman Thomas. And it is pandemonium at Rick Stadium.
Thurman Thomas's career-best 80-yard TD run was all the scoring Buffalo needed, as the Bills' defense devoured and dominated the hapless last-place Patriots. With their second shutout in 3 weeks, the first-place Bills are suddenly giddy with success, a feeling the San Francisco 49ers can certainly relate to. The Niners have fattened up on the competition all season long, and last Sunday's game with the Bucs was no different. With this uncharacteristic move to the outside, nose tackle Jim Burt recorded one of 7 San Francisco sacks. Unfortunately, the defending NFL champions lost a shutout bid when the usually reliable Joe Montana served up this turkey of a pass.
3rd down, 9, Montana ready. Under a little bit of pressure, gets rid of the ball. Picked off by Haddix at the 40. Haddix to the 50, to the 40. He may go. Wayne Haddix is going to score a Buccaneer touchdown.
With their passing game sputtering, the 49ers revived what had been a dormant running attack. Roger Craig rushed for his first touchdown of the year as San Francisco overpowered the Bucs 31-7. With their 18th straight victory, the Niners tied the all-time NFL consecutive win record. And that, as much as anything, is a reason for them to be giving thanks. The holiday horn of plenty in Cincinnati's filled forth a playoff atmosphere as the Bengals and Steelers squared off for sole possession of first place in the AFC Central.
We control our own destiny right here, starting here tonight.
I came to the conclusion that do or die means this. We will kill ourselves tonight for the playoff if we don't win. So it's up to us to go out there and hand it to them, man.
Right.
Let's do it on three.
Got to be aggressive.
One, defense on three. 1, 2, 3. Defense!
Boomer Esiason took some of the fire out of the Steeler defense early with play-action rollouts and beautifully disguised play fakes that had Pittsburgh wondering just who had the football. The Bengals took advantage of the Steelers' confusion and gobbled up a season-high 178 yards on the ground.
Down and goal. Hand off to Ickey. Cuts in and will win. Touchdown. Now here comes the first Ickey shuffle at home. Let's check this one, man. This one might be a real dandy right here. Comes over in front of the Bengals bench. And he'll get out there and give a little bit for the crowd. Yes, there it is.
The Bengals danced to a 10-0 lead, but late in the first half, the Steelers tried a fancy step of their own.
It'll come from the left side hash mark. Fake, holding the ball, running with it. Nobody sees him and going down and getting in for the touchdown. No, the Bengals say he hit the ground before he got there. No touchdown. He went up in the air, did the cartwheel, and came down about 3 inches from the goal line.
Dan Straczynski's near miss kept the score at 10-0, and the fired-up Bengals made sure the Steelers didn't even get close to the end zone in the second half.
Turn it up another notch right now. Come on, man. Come on, let's do it right now. Let's really just kick him around.
Sam Weich's Bengals constantly attacked on defense and continued to perplex on offense.
Boomer will give the ball to Craig. No, Boomer keeps it. Throws up, is caught by Caddis at the 25. Down to the 20, breaks away. 10-5, and he's very close. He did not quite get in. They're going to say he was just inches away.
Hey, what do you want? How far does he have to go in? Hey, look at that next one. He's not out of bounds till he comes down. He's a touchdown!
Regardless of Sam Weich's opinion, the call stood after replay officials ruled that Eric Caddis was indeed out at the 1-yard line.
Well, the replay is a useless piece of information, I can tell you that. You can't miss that! Let's go! Okay, let's go! He said his hand was in it. That's the replay is useless.
The point was rendered moot one play later when Craig Taylor scored to help extend the Bengals' lead to 17-0. But it wasn't until late in the third quarter that Cincinnati's defense put the game completely out of reach.
Worley with a handoff to Lips on a reverse. Running wide at the 30, and he'll just get back to the 25. Loses the ball. Bengals pick it up. There goes Bussey. Nobody is going to get him. It's going to be a touchdown.
The Bengals celebrated their Thanksgiving early by gobbling up sole possession of first place.
The Cincinnati Bengals have had all sorts of distractions. 3 of their first 5 games were on the West Coast. They were kicked out of their house when the Reds hosted the World Series, and yet they find themselves in first place. Hey, they must be doing it with mirrors because defensively, the Bengals were 15th in the NFL last year. This season, they've nearly plummeted to the bottom. Currently, they're ranked 25th. Rushing-wise, they led the NFL on the ground in 1989, but like their defense, the Bengals' running game has also dropped 10 notches. As for quarterback Boomer Esiason, through 10 games in 1990, he has already thrown 10 more interceptions than he had at this point last year. So Boomer must be in trouble. We're coming to the rescue because we're going to let him talk to the man that can answer all the questions and give him advice, Chris Collinsworth on Crosstalk.
Well, Lenny, thank you very much. Boomer, I don't remember you throwing any interceptions this year, do you?
Chris, I've been wondering where you've been all this time. Now I see where you're at.
Here we go, here we go. Let's talk about the team a little bit. People have called the Bengals schizophrenic because no one, including us, can figure you guys out. Last week, we all picked you guys to lose against the Steelers, and you play your best game of the year after losing 3 of the previous 4 games. How do you explain the Bengals' up and down year?
Well, first of all, the Steeler game was the first time that we had all our super offense together. Ickey Woods, James Brooks, Rodney Holman, Tim McGee, and Eddie Brown and myself were all healthy for the first time, and you saw the reason why, you know, we were able to execute like that. All those guys in there make a big difference, and hopefully that will carry us through the rest of the year.
Let's talk about that game last week. You threw only 16 passes, and the Bengals won relying on their running game and defense. Are we starting to see a change in the philosophy of Sam White's?
Chris, you know from being here, we've always been a run-oriented team. We've always tried to be balanced 50-50. When you have backs like James Brooks, Ickey Woods, Harold Green, Eric Ball, and people like that, you want to give the ball to them. And the biggest problem we have now is we don't have enough footballs to go around. So if the running game is going to produce wins like it has against Cleveland and against Pittsburgh, we'll stick with it.
Let's talk about Sam for just a minute. Again this week, he has decided to take on the powers that be in the NFL, including Commissioner Paul Tagliabue. Earlier this year, there was the controversy with the female reporters in the locker room. What kind of effect does that stuff have on the team?
It's actually a lightning effect, if you ask me, because it's very loose around here at Spinney Field. Sam tells us what the news of the day is, and he tries to bring us up to date. We actually find it very humorous the way people scurry around all the things that, you know, he might have said the day before in his press conference. It's actually quite funny, and you know from being here just how funny it is. So I just think that it's something that you deal with as a professional athlete, and it's had no effect whatsoever on the preparation of this football team.
Well, speaking of scurrying around, it looks like you've taken the commercial lead in the National Football League, including that car commercial you stole from me in Cincinnati. And by the way, how many sit-ups did you do for that Hanes underwear commercial? I mean, I know you, and you really ain't that pretty.
Well, Chris, you're just jealous. You don't have a body like me.
That is my goal in life. Yes, I have to admit that, to have a body just like yours.
Well, actually, Chris, you know, I've been very fortunate. I play for a very successful football team. I have good attorneys that know how to market people. And actually, I think I am third. I'm behind Montana and Bo Jackson, I believe, Chris.
All right, Bo. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And be careful with those Indianapolis Colts this week. They got you guys last year.
Hey, you know, come down and say hi to the guys every now and then. We haven't seen you in over a year.
I'll be down there tomorrow. Boom, thanks for being with us.
Okay, we really do miss you, Chris.
Nick, Len?
Chris, thank you very much. You know, in order for the Bengals to be successful, Boomer has to come through.
Yeah, you're talking about improvising, Lenny. They have to let him use his natural ability to get things done besides throw the football. When that happens, the whole offense rises up.
Well, they ought to turn the guy loose then. You can be sure the AFC Central race will come down to a riverfront matchup of the Oilers and Bengals December the 23rd. In our cover story this week from Houston, Brian Burwell looks at the skies and sees a shining moon. Warren has done a lot for his team, but even more for his community.
We're here in downtown Houston outside this beautiful theater where inside Warren Moon is holding a press conference, a different kind of press conference. He's not in there talking about the run and shoot offense. Instead, he's talking about his major off-field passion, giving back to the children of this community.
If it wasn't for the Houston Ballet and for these fine sponsors, these kids would never get an opportunity to experience something like this, because this is an opportunity for 200 young, underprivileged kids to get a chance to see the Nutcracker, a ballet which is, I think, a ballet every young kid should be able to see.
Warren Moon, on his off day, supplying needy kids with tickets to the ballet. On his on days, dancing his way into the record books as he closes in on Dan Marino's single-season passing marks. This two-time Pro Bowl starter is a rare combination, a man of talent, belief, and conscience, and a very busy man.
Say yes to a youngster's future. The number one that's killing our nation, heart disease.
We can't forget what we're here for, and that's to donate money to help prevent blindness. A lot of underprivileged kids could come here to the circus tonight and view one of the greatest shows on earth.
You are now officially proclaimed an ambassador of goodwill for the state.
We, the mayor and city council of the city of Houston, declare this Sunday as Warren Moon Day in Houston, Harris County, Texas. Thank you.
It's really no wonder that Moon was named the 1989 NFL Man of the Year. The question is, why does one man give so much of himself?
Well, there's a few reasons for that, and I think the biggest one is there was so much done for me when I was a youngster. I grew up without a dad. I grew up in a neighborhood where it wasn't the ghetto, but it definitely wasn't middle class, and there were a lot of organizations around that, you know, kept me out of trouble.
Teddy Bear Bear, what do you say?
His dad died when he was 7, and growing up in L.A. with 6 sisters and his mom, Moon learned the importance of a helping hand. Always committed to giving back, last year he established the Crescent Moon Foundation, a nonprofit organization which provides career, growth, and educational opportunities for underprivileged youth.
Every kid doesn't have the same opportunities, but that doesn't mean every kid can have the same opportunities. And I'm just trying to give as many kids as possible the opportunity to experience the same things that a lot of other fortunate kids do.
Moon gives more than just his time and energy. Last year, he donated $200,000 of his own money to build a church community center.
What we did is this was the old sanctuary, and we converted it into a community center to just facilitate the needs of this community here that were really needed. Just by seeing what it's done for those young kids in the preschool, I mean, I get a rush every time I go in there to know that I've had an impact on you know, 100 little kids. Football is a small portion of my life. It's a very important part of my life right now because it enables me to do a lot of different things with my life. I also have to realize that there's a lot more to life than football. And, I think what's great is I can leave the Astrodome, whether we win or lose, and come home and be greeted by, you know, my wife and 4 kids, and you just get a whole different perspective on life.
Sailor went to sea, to see what he could see, but all that he could see, was the bottom of the ocean, see.
I think I'd like to be remembered as a person that was respected by his peers, a person that gave his all at whatever it was he was doing, and a person that cared about people, that genuinely cared about other people, and tried to do something to make a difference. And if I can be remembered by just those 3 things, then I'll feel very satisfied about my life.
Oh, what a great story. Oiler fans must give thanks every day for a quarterback like Warren Moon. Nick, I've always had a great deal of respect for Warren Moon, and I have more for him right now, but I don't think he really gets the recognition he deserves as being one of the top quarterbacks in the National Football League. I'll tell you this, you know, he has a terrific release. You don't see any knuckleballs thrown by Warren Moon. He gets good rotation and a tight spiral. That means it's easier to locate and easier to catch.
Lenny, maybe that's why 4 out of the top 7 receivers in the AFC are Oilers. You know, Warren Moon throws a lot of touchdown passes, leads the league with 24, but he also gets pounded a lot, gets knocked to the ground, but somehow this guy rises to the occasion.
Well, that's a product of the run-and-shoot offense. Of the 4 teams that started the year with the run-and-shoot, the only one that still has their starting quarterback healthy is Houston with Warren Moon. But who knows how long that's going to last. This week they play Buffalo with Bruce Smith and Cornelius Bennett. Could be a long day.
Not a pretty sight looking at Bennett and Smith for any quarterback, especially a run-and-shoot quarterback that does not get protection. He doesn't have a tight end to help him block and protect him. The one back is generally in motion. He is out of there. So if there's an all-out blitz, he either reads it, gets rid of that ball in a hurry, or he gets sacked.
Hey, Lenny, these sacks or knockdowns are not what we call the in-the-grass type. These are all-out sprints by safeties or linebackers, and this could spell hurt.
You better believe it. We've got some action coming up showing exactly what you are talking about. You mentioned 5 sacks. Well, he was hit so hard that 3 of those 5 sacks resulted in a fumble. Well, certain animals symbolize courage and strength. Lions, bears, broncos, but other animals aren't representative of a football team. But as we all know, on any given Sunday, any player can be a goat, any team can be a turkey.
New Cleveland head coach Jim Schaffner may have inherited a turkey in his Browns, but sometimes a little home cooking can help dress up even the sickliest bird. So when the Browns squared off with the Oilers last Sunday, they made sure the first course included plenty of stuffing. typical AFC Central brawl, the two teams took turns pounding on each other. But for a change, the Browns looked impressive through almost 2 quarters. Bernie Kosar's touchdown pass to Ozzie Newsome helped the Browns build a 13-7 lead. But it would not be enough against the run-and-shoot gauntlet thrown down by Warren Moon.
Moon with time, throwing deep down the sidelines for Jeffries at the 5, touchdown! Yeah. There it is! They're bringing 7. Moon's there. Get the pass off for Duncan at the 20. He will score, touchdown!
Yeah. When injuries forced Browns punt returner number 44, Stephon Adams, into the defensive backfield, Moon picked at him like a 3-day-old leftover bird.
Stephon burnt toast Adams today. Boy, have we cooked him.
No matter how you slice it, toast or turkey, the Brown defensive backfield was helpless against the Oilers' array of pick plays and Warren Moon's 5 touchdown passes.
Down throwing, has a man given, touchdown! Ernest Givens somersaults in the end zone over Stephon Adams.
While Adams was forced to play the turkey in the Oilers' 35-23 feast, the Rams were getting ready for some turtle soup, or was it sushi? Anyway, Los Angeles knew a loss to the Cowboys would take them from the frying pan into the fire. And things started getting hot when former University of Miami teammates Michael Irvin and Cleveland Gary got into a scoring duel.
Corner of the end zone. It is a touchdown, folks, for the Cowboys offense. Here's 2nd and goal. Handoff Gary over the top, diving. And the Belgian judge calls it an 8.3. Aikman back to throw. Plenty of time. Deep ball. Got Irvin down the left sideline. He caught it at the 20. Right to the 15, the 10. Michael Irvin. Cowboys touchdown. 3 in 1/2.
The Cowboys' 3 touchdowns were matched by Gary's 3. Here, Tom Newberry and Irv Pankey open a lane. And Damone Johnson gets downfield to spring Gary for the score. But instead of locking horns to salute their hero, Rams fans should have been preparing to fit them on a goat. As Gary was sweeping in for the go-ahead score, he fumbled. And like the bird spared his neck on Thanksgiving, the Cowboys did the turkey trot up the field for the winning score. Ken Willis's 23-yard field goal was the difference in the Cowboys' 24-21 win that left the Rams wondering what might have been. Jets coach Bruce Kozolin and Colts coach Ron Meyer were wondering where the fans might have been last Sunday, as the smallest crowd to ever see the Colts in Indianapolis greeted the two teams shortly before number 90. Dennis Byrd greeted Colts quarterback Jeff George with a safety.
He's dropped for a safety.
In the spirit of the holidays, the Jets gave thanks for the Colts' generosity and then returned the favor to their needier opponent.
Back throws, fires over the middle, and it's intercepted by Eric McMillan. Along the side, he cuts back to the left side, moves upfield, gets away from one man, drives upfield. He fumbles the ball. It's covered by the Colts.
What a stupid play by McMillan. What a stupid play.
McMillan's gap became the break the Colts needed to get back on track.
Looks, throws one deep down the far sideline. It is incomplete.
Jesse Hester's touchdown was the Colts' biggest play of the day in a 17-14 win. Coming up, Inside Info looks into the future of Detroit's run-and-shoot offense. Where Are They Now features Hall of Fame quarterback Otto Graham. And on Pigskin Potpourri, we turn our attention to the role NFLers play in holiday food drives.
Many people associate the holiday of Thanksgiving with football, but we should remember it is meant as a day to give thanks for what we have and to remember those less fortunate. Our Pigskin Potpourri will look at the giving part of Thanksgiving. Let's get back to the team we just saw, the Indianapolis Colts. And Nick, the Colts made a blockbuster deal prior to the draft, sending wide receiver Andre Rison and offensive lineman Chris Hinton to Atlanta for their selection in the draft so they could pick quarterback Jeff George. But I guess you could make a case of statistically where Jesse Hester filling in for Rison the same number of games this year is doing better than Rison did in the same number of games a year ago.
Lenny, let's not talk about last year. Let's talk about this year. Rison has 62 receptions. Hester has only 33. Plus, they trade an all-pro, rock-solid lineman like Chris Hinton. To me, you never trade quality players for an if-come rookie quarterback like Jeff George.
I disagree. If you're going to try to build a championship team, you have to start with a quarterback. I talked to Ron Meyer earlier this year, and he said the whole idea behind the trade was to get a quarterback to go with their already good running game. Unfortunately, Eric Dickerson threw a monkey wrench in some of those plans.
If the George deal was bad, how about Dickerson? After the squabbling, the holdout, he finally signs a contract worth a ton of money, and I say, what has he contributed to the team? What he hasn't contributed is a running attack, because he's averaging less than 40 yards a game.
Well, he hasn't hurt the team, but he hasn't really helped them either. As you'll see by this graphic coming up here, Eric Dickerson, they've had the same number of wins, and they've had the same number of rushing attempts with or without Eric Dickerson. So I don't think there's really been that much difference one way or another.
Hey, to me, it's not Dickerson, it's not the offensive line. Before the fans point the finger at the players and start booing them, they ought to storm that front office. They ought to tell them, stop making blockbuster trades and start making good football sense.
I guess that means that he's not going to be invited to Earthsay's for Thanksgiving dinner. No way. All right. Turkey wasn't the only bird consumed last week. As you shall see, certain teams prefer to feast on fowls, such as Falcons, Seahawks, and Cardinals.
A few NFL teams feasted on fowl a few days before Thanksgiving. In Atlanta, a flock of falcons faced off against a gathering of eagles, meaning that one band of birds would wind up getting their gooses cooked. In the second period, Philadelphia whipped up a recipe rich in razzle-dazzle to set the table for a game-tying touchdown. Number 89, Fred Barnett, was a bird on a wire. Then Atlanta cornerback Bobby Butler was Johnny on the spot. Butler bought a play fake to Heath Sherman and got stuck in no man's land. Butler recovered too late, and the wide-open Keith Jackson grabbed Randall Cunningham's scoring toss. Cunningham would fire 2 more touchdown passes during a frantic final quarter.
Sherman, the single setback. Cunningham stumbles as he goes back. Now fires into the end zone. Caught for a touchdown by Keith Jackson. Heath Sherman, the single setback. Fake to Heath Sherman. Randall rolls, backs up, going deep for Calvin Williams. Open touchdown! Cunningham, Calvin Williams in the end zone, and the birds of the Eagles variety take the lead.
Chris Miller proved he was not a bird of the chicken variety when he held his ground against the West Hopkins blitz.
Line and come after him, so he runs right. He doesn't see him, but he gets a pass off. There's a man open. Touchdown!
But Atlanta's 2-point lead was erased with 1:45 remaining to play.
The game is on the line. The ball is spotted. The kick is away. The kick is good! Roger Ruzick with a guts field goal.
Roger Ruzik's 46-yard field goal gave the Eagles a sweet-tasting victory that improved their record to 6-4. The Seahawks are the main attraction in Seattle, and these birds had no intention of becoming the main course for the hungry Vikings.
Break out of the shotgun, back on 3rd and 3, throws in the end zone. Touchdown, Seahawks, the Blaze!
Defensive end Tony Woods demonstrated improper etiquette by removing his helmet after helping himself to the meaty legs of Herschel Walker. But in the 4th period, Walker's legs helped secure a tie.
Vikings stay in the shotgun on 3rd down. Here's the snap, handoff Herschel. Herschel zips through. He's got the first down over midfield. He's flying. Herschel is over the 30, 25, 20. They're not going to catch him. He goes all the way. Touchdown, Herschel Walker.
After Walker took off in a blaze, the birds from Seattle went up in smoke. Joey Browner's interception meant a field goal was the next item on Minnesota's menu for a victory feast. The Seahawks' bill of fare was also nothing fancy, yet it still required close study. They selected the blocked kick, but it never arrived.
And the crowd tries to get into this one. Harry Newsom will put it down on the 15 to 25-yard attempt. The kick is up, and it is good! Quad Reves, no time left on the clock. The Minnesota Vikings have won.
The Phoenix Cardinals give away games on a silver platter. That's why they usually end up in the bowl. Last week, they got flushed by a flash named Sterling Sharp.
Complete to Sharp again. He makes a move at the 40. He's to the 30. Sharp running away from everyone for the touchdown. It was no contest.
But it became a contest after Don Mikowski suffered a shoulder injury that sent him to the sideline for the rest of the afternoon. Phoenix quarterback Tim Rosenbaugh then became the magic man most of the day.
Rosenbaugh needs it here. 3rd down and 8. The Packers leading in this game 10-0. Rosenbaugh back to throw. Pressure coming backside. Throws up the field. Indiana Jones is up, and he's got it for the touchdown.
Rosenbaugh's 3 scoring passes propelled Phoenix to a 21-10 advantage.
Ricky Broll in motion. Rosenbaugh setting up to throw. Throwing the far side. The ball is up. Touchdown. The catch is made by Indiana Jones.
But Ernie Indiana Jones couldn't prevent the Cars from visiting the Temple of Doom for the 8th time this year, as sub-signal caller Anthony Dillwig threw for 2 touchdowns in the final period. There were less than 30 seconds remaining in the game when Dillwig enabled the Packers to feast on foul in Phoenix.
Sends Harris in motion to the right side. Here's Dillwig on a handoff, and it's a bootleg to the right. You're right, and he's in trouble. Goes in the end zone. Touchdown! They caught it. Who caught it with 16 seconds? Is it Eddie West? I think it's Eddie West.
Unbelievable. The Cardinals had the ball game right in their grasp. They still don't know how to win.
Ah, pity the poor Phoenix Cardinals are headed for their 6th straight losing season, but still have a couple of things to give thanks for. The NFC's leading rusher, Johnny Johnson, and a home game this Sunday against the 1-9 Patriots. Gary, earlier on in this program, we talked about the run-and-shoot offense. Chris, of course, has been opposed to it all along, says it can't make it. Detroit is one of those teams using it, but they have a guy by the name of Barry Sanders in the backfield. You think they're going to make any adjustments next year?
Absolutely. This can make Chris real happy because people I spoke with in the Detroit organization this week said they're definitely going to modify the run and shoot next year. They're not totally ready to give up on it, but by modifying it, they're going to put a fullback and a tight end there to block for Barry Sanders. All the defenses have been stacked against the run because Detroit is having trouble throwing the ball, and Sanders is only getting the ball 14 times a game, and he's starting to complain. Things will definitely change in Detroit next year.
I think it's a good idea. Sanders is the most exciting runner in the National Football League. Plus, Rodney Peete, their quarterback, went down. He couldn't stand the pounding. 1993. The Super Bowl was supposed to be in Phoenix, but the commissioner says no because the voters voted down Martin Luther King Day. What are the after effects of this decision?
Well, first of all, a lot of people around the league are wondering why the NFL just didn't wait until after the vote in Arizona on the Martin Luther King holiday to decide if they wanted to put a game in Phoenix. But since Tagliabue's decision to take the game out of Phoenix, a lot of activist groups are calling the league office to complain about future sites of the games, wondering why a game would be in Florida because the new governor is pro-life, wondering why a game would be in Louisiana because David Duke got 40% of the vote. They really got themselves into a political area here they didn't expect.
Yeah, they opened up a can of worms that they really didn't need. Let's talk about coaching. You know, Pittsburgh a couple of years ago decided not to fire Chuck Noll, but they made him change some of his assistant coaches. Do you see this trend continuing in the NFL?
Absolutely. You know, when Chuck Noll was forced to fire a couple of assistants by Dan Rooney, he really went down kicking and screaming. But it has set a trend in the league, and I expect in Los Angeles, if John Robinson keeps his job, he's going to have to change his defensive staff. Probably Fritz Shermer, the coordinator, will be fired. It could happen in Indianapolis also if Ron Meyer is able to keep his job. One spot where a coach is not going to be fired but make some changes is Dallas. Jimmy Johnson has no problem keeping his job because Jerry Jones owns the team, and that's his best friend. But he's going to bring a quarterback coach in to work with Troy Aikman, probably Mark Trestman, who worked for Johnson at Miami. And that should alleviate some of the problems between Aikman and David Shula, the offensive coordinator.
I don't understand why every club does not have a quarterback coach every day to watch those quarterbacks, the most important man on the squad. Speaking of coaches, you know, ever since Bill Walsh retired and went into broadcasting, every time there's a head job available, his name is at the top of the list. Have you had an opportunity to talk to him and find out if he might reconsider and come back and coach?
Yes, Lenny, I spoke with Bill Walsh this week. You know, last year, the Patriots and the Jets both offered Walsh the opportunity to coach their teams, and his name has already come up linked with the Rams if Robinson is fired. Walsh told me this week that he's really agonized for the last year and a half over his decision to leave the 49ers, but right now he really has no intention of getting back into coaching.
Well, I tell you, I'm sure it's very difficult for him to leave after all those years of coaching. Thank you very much. Hope you and your family have a very pleasant Thanksgiving week, and we ask you, don't eat too much of that bird. All right, see you next week. The subject of our Where Are They Now is former Browns quarterback Otto Graham. Now, with Graham at quarterback, the Browns advanced to the championship game an amazing 10 consecutive seasons. He's always been a winner, even when overcome life's toughest opponents.
Retired and living in Florida. Otto Graham still hits a golf ball like he threw a football, straight and accurate. Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1965, Otto Graham was not only an excellent passer, but one of the game's greatest winners. In a career that spanned a decade, Graham guided the Browns to 7 championships in 10 years in 2 leagues, an unprecedented achievement. Winning 115 of the 138 games he played, Otto amassed over 24,000 yards passing and was one of the key figures in the Browns' merger to the NFL in 1950.
As I look back over my career, I would say my fondest memory would be the 1950 season, our first year in the NFL. Having been newcomers, being able to win it all, proving we had a good football team after taking all those insults and remarks and so forth over a 4-year period, that has to be the best.
Otto left Cleveland after the 1955 season to pursue a career with the Coast Guard Academy, a career that spanned a third of his life and would see Otto earn the rank of captain. But if his wife had had any say, he would have never wound up at the academy.
I'd talked with the coaches, the students, the cadets, the military and so forth. I liked what I saw. As we pulled out of the station, she turned to me and said, "Thank God we'll never see that place again." And when I told her I loved the place, she almost died. But we both agreed that it was one of the finest parts of our life.
And life was good to the Grahams until 1978, when Otto discovered he had cancer. With limited options, surgery was performed, and the operation was successful. Number 61 again, but needed to do more.
Thanks to early detection and advances in cancer research, I had a successful operation. I'm even feeling good enough to keep working full time. Your contributions do count. I'm living proof.
Fully recovered and leading a normal life, Otto and his wife Beverly moved to Sarasota, Florida this year to pursue a 3rd career. Otto's part ownership of the Forest Lakes Golf Course.
Very good move, quite honestly, because my wife and I, Bev, we thoroughly enjoyed being here in the golf course. We get a chance to go out in the afternoon, play 4, 5, 6 holes where you want to. And being one of the owners of the golf course, I don't have to pay green fees or cart fees, you know, and that kind of stuff. And it's a good life. That might go in, that might go. Ah, there's the one in.
A life that has seen all of the Graham's children and foster children grow up and provide Otto and Beverly with 16 grandchildren, which has kept one grandfather very happy.
I just have a very pleasant life. I wouldn't trade it, quite honestly. I could be doing more, I suppose, than I am doing, but I quite honestly feel I've paid my dues over the years, and it's time to sit back and really smell the flowers and enjoy life.
When you measure greatness, leadership, character, and the will to win are all part of the equation. Otto Graham never missed a game in 10 years and retired on top. Football begs for more players like Otto, who always put the team first and his personal achievements second.
The charter class of the Hall of Fame was elected in 1963. Otto Graham was inducted 2 years later, actually a couple of years before his coach, Paul Brown. Chris, he was my hero when I was growing up, when I was a kid. He was the Stone Age, you know, that was before 1980. And, you know, I used to go up and watch him. I lived in Alliance, Ohio, 60 miles from Cleveland. I used to try to pattern, you know, myself after Otto Graham.
Well, when his coach talks about Otto Graham, Paul Brown, he speaks almost in reverent terms. He talks about his leadership abilities, the way he wins championships, but more importantly, the way he conducts himself off the football field. Paul Brown really loves that guy.
Boy, you talk about a winner, Lenny. I'm still marveling over the fact that he only played 10 years and went to 10 championships. No, they talk about Joe Montana, and they talk about Terry Bradshaw and all the Super Bowls that they won. Otto Graham won 7 championships. That had put this guy right at the top.
Oh, he's the winner. There's no question about that. You know, I'm happy to see that he's feeling well. I know his golf game is in great shape. The last time I played with him was in your tournament in Phoenix. He shot his age, folks, 67, complained about his game all the way on the course, and then tried to tell us he was a 10 handicapper.
Well, on behalf of all his fans in the state of Ohio, I want to wish Otto Graham a very happy Thanksgiving, and I know Paul Brown would too.
You know, Chris, Thanksgiving is such a great time of the year. And NFL players certainly recognize that because they are not selfish people. On Thanksgiving Day, they go out and do in the community for those who cannot, as you will see in this week's potpourri. In San Diego, the Chargers have one of the largest food drives in the NFL. The players gather early in the morning to unload groceries, which are supplied by the Chargers and local merchants. Real teamwork. Then they drive to poor areas around San Diego where they personally distribute the goods to needy people. Food drives like this go on all around the NFL at Thanksgiving time, as players feel a real need to give something back to their communities. The Chargers all felt this as they delivered to neighborhoods which haven't had much to smile about lately.
We got to realize where they sit and where we sit, and there are needy people here, and we like to help them out.
In Pittsburgh, Operation Bundle Up gives the Steelers a chance to bring underprivileged children to local stores to get winter clothing. The clothing is all free to the kids, who get warmer winters out of this deal, plus a chance to get acquainted with some of their favorite NFL players. The players happily spend their off days on this project, and the parents and children all give a special thanks to the Steelers for their devotion and commitment to this wonderful community during the holiday season. The Seattle Seahawks celebrated Thanksgiving in a different way. They traveled to Fort Lewis, where they met with soldiers who were just days away from being sent to the Persian Gulf. The troops were looking for a spirit lifter, and safety Eugene Robinson and friends were ready and willing. Robinson entertained the troops with war stories of his own from the football field, and the troops were left with a good feeling as they departed their country for an undetermined amount of time.
I wish I could see him play the rest of the season, but we'll be rooting for him over there.
Players are certainly unselfish, and sometimes I get sick and tired of hearing people complain about players making too much money. These guys are the first ones to step up in the community when a job has to be done.
And these are just a few of the activities most NFL teams get involved with. I wish they'd get involved with playing consistently so that we could make our selections a lot easier. We know who's going to win or lose. Last week, for example...
Yeah, it's definitely their
Blow
fault.
the trumpets, folks.
Oh.
Blow the trumpets. Look who's up there with a 10-4 record.
That's a mistake.
Chris, you're moving, brother.
I am. I'm overtaking you now.
Uh-oh. A tie, I see, for
Still
second.
way ahead, though. Way ahead.
That is absolutely right. Now, let's take a look at some of the games that we all agree on this week. Cincinnati should defeat Indianapolis. It's Miami over Cleveland. Phoenix downing New England. Pittsburgh defeating the Jets. Now, the other games. The first one, Atlanta at New Orleans. I did well last week when Chris started. So, Chris, why don't you start first?
Well, I haven't done well for a long time, so it doesn't really matter to me. But Atlanta, they haven't won on the road now for a long, long time. Not at all this year. I'm going to take the Saints.
I'm going to take the Saints at home. I mean, they got shut down big time by the Washington Redskins last week, but I do like New Orleans.
Defense of the Saints. New Orleans. Chicago at Minnesota, Nick.
Well, they're going up to Minnesota. Minnesota's on the road. Chris's team, hey, they're still in the hunt, Chris. You never know. But Chicago's defense, I think, is just going to be a little bit too much for them, even though they're going on the road. I like the Bears.
They're going for number 4 in a row this week, and I like the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Bears. Thank you very
much.
much.
Back on that
going to the playoffs.
Bandwagon. I like the defense of Chicago. Chris, we got Tampa Bay at Green Bay.
Well, the Battle of the Bays, Anthony Dilweg is going to play quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and I still think that's good enough. I'll take the Pack.
Vinny Testaverde's coming back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they're playing up at Green Bay. Probably be a snowstorm. I'll take the Green Bay Packers.
It might be a weather shock for Tampa Bay. I picked Green Bay. We've got Kansas City at the Raiders in a very important AFC West contest.
Well, I'll tell you, this game here gave me fits. I mean, I wasn't sure who I wanted to pick for this one here. The Raiders look so good. That offensive line and defensive line were really pounding the Dolphins last week. But, you know, I have to say that the Kansas City defense will shut that Raider running game down. I like the Chiefs.
I think the grass field out at the Coliseum will give the Raiders a little bit of an advantage, take away some of the defensive speed of the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Raiders.
Also, don't forget, the Raiders played on Monday evening, got home late. They're going to have one less day to prepare. I like Kansas City. Seattle at San Diego, Chris.
The San Diego Chargers, we've talked about them all season long. I think they're a very talented football team, and they're going to beat that team out there.
Well, you know, Tolliver got hurt last week, and they're not sure he's going to play this week. I don't know who's going to let that quarterback. Seattle looks like they're healthy, but they are playing in San Diego. I'm going to take the Chargers.
I saw San Diego against the Chiefs last week, and they are a good football team, and Butts is an excellent back, but he shouldn't talk about just the Raiders, Marion. Also Kansas City. I like San Diego. Buffalo at Houston.
Well, this is another tough, but this one here we all talked about. I mean, this is one you flip a coin and you hope. Houston at home, they're just, Warren Moon's just playing such good football, but Buffalo's going down with that talented defense. Jim Kelly's former hometown was Houston. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills.
I think this is going to be the last game that the Buffalo Bills lose during the regular season this year. A tough place to play down there in Houston. I'm taking the Oilers.
Oh, I tell you, you got Warren Moon. He's going up against that rush, and oftentimes not enough people to block. I like Buffalo. The Giants at Philadelphia.
Well, the Giants are going to try and keep their undefeated streak alive out here, and this is an awfully tough place to play, but I think they'll do it. This will probably be the game of the week, though.
They're talking big time in Philadelphia.
How big? How big?
Andre Waters says he's going to put Sims out of the game. Philadelphia 4 in a row. Cunningham on a roll.
Who do you like?
I'm taking the Giants.
Who did you pick, by the way?
Giants.
The both of you picked the Giants?
Yeah.
It's unanimous. I picked the Giants as well. All right, we've got the Rams
you're going for it there
at
for a
San
minute.
Francisco.
Well, the Rams have, again, not shown much character this year. Johnny Robinson's offense, I think, is in a state of disarray, and the defense is not much better. San Francisco just is playing such top football. I'm going to take the 49ers.
I think the 49ers have a better chance of getting beat this week than they do next week against the Giants, but I'm staying with the 49ers.
Hey, until somebody proves they can beat them, I go with San Francisco. And speaking of the 49ers, next week we're splitting up and traveling coast to coast to preview the matchup between the 49ers and the Giants.
Hey, I'm going to be in East Rutherford, and my guests are going to be Otis Anderson and Lawrence Taylor. I'm going to talk about how they're going to stop that 49ers scoring machine.
And I'll be on the other coast in Santa Clara. My guests will be Ronnie Lott and Jerry Rice.
And, of course, I'm going to have the difficult task, folks. I'll be sipping cappuccino and strolling the streets of San Francisco. Folks, have a great, happy Thanksgiving week, and please join us next week for Inside the NFL.
Hi, I'm Bob St. Clair, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers. I used to intimidate rookies coming to training camp by eating raw meat. I don't intimidate anyone any longer, but I still eat raw meat. Tune in next week to Inside the NFL and see what I'm doing today.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.